Good morning. What do you think of these? They are quite amazing new glasses that I've bought recently, and they're from, I think they're called Thin Optics, but they are so light. They're absolutely amazing. I don't know about you, but if you do wear reading glasses, and I only need them for reading, I don't need them for distance, the bridge of my nose gets really uncomfortable, even though I love big glasses and I think they look fantastic. But wearing them for any length of time is just really uncomfortable on my nose. But these little things, they really weigh nothing. I'll put the details down below for you. They are amazing. I have them in brown and now this pair in black. And I've now started to wear them when I'm at my computer, because then I don't end up with ridges. I don't end up with an achy bridge of my nose. They're brilliant. I absolutely love them. Anyway, that's not what I've popped on here mostly to talk about, because they'll probably come into my faves, which I will be doing later in the month. I must have a sip of coffee. It's about, what time is it? It's about 10 to 8 in the morning. I'm drinking black coffee at the moment, which is a bit weird for me because I'm usually a milky coffee drinker, although not very milky, just I quite like a cortado or a macchiato. But at the moment, I am trying intermittent fasting. So we'll see how we get on with that. Of course, there will be a video in due course. Let's hope it works anyway, because I am missing my milk in my coffee, but never mind. We're doing it and we're going to keep at it. Although I am off to Newcastle tomorrow. It's actually Tuesday when I film this. I'm off to Newcastle tomorrow for a few days, back on Sunday, and I won't really be able to do proper intermittent fasting there because we're probably going to end up eating dinner late and having breakfast early in relation to what I usually do, because we're out every night. Obviously, we're staying in a hotel, so we'll just have to have a little break, but we will carry on. I'm going to do 6 weeks and then we'll see where we get to with the results. So apart from planning my trip to Newcastle, although I'm not really planning it and my husband's planning it, and the university's his alma mater, and also his father was from there, so he's got real connections and he still has cousins there, so we're going to be visiting them, and it's a beautiful part of the world. And we're going to Lindisfarne, which I'm really looking forward to. So it's going to be a great time, and the weather's not looking too bad. It's not going to be super warm or anything because it is up north, but I think it's relatively dry. There's supposed to be bits of rain, but of course we're going up north. We will dress for it. That's what we do. And the other exciting thing is, no doubt I'll be able to do a bit of shopping because there's a Phoenix department store there. Now, sadly, the Phoenix in London has disappeared, or at least the main store in London's disappeared, but it was a lovely store and is a great store, and it has some really nice fashions, great makeup, all of that. So no doubt there'll be a bit of browsing, if not a bit of purchasing as well. Now, talking of that, last Saturday I had to go to the dentist, and my dentist is he's just off Harley Street actually. And Harley Street is very close to Oxford Street, for those of you who don't know London. It's literally about 5 minutes walk. So of course I take the opportunity to pop down. And I'm going to put some footage in of Selfridges. I always feel slightly nervous recording in there, so the footage is not particularly fab. What I usually do is I hold the camera up like this, sort of in front of my chest, so it doesn't look like I'm filming, if you know what I mean. I might just be, I don't know, talking to someone or whatever. But anyway, I really enjoyed my trip to Selfridges, and I was a very naughty girl. I did buy some makeup, which you will find out about in other videos, no doubt. But I did really enjoy my trip, and Selfridges is such a great store because it virtually has everything you could think of in terms of makeup, except for, weirdly, it doesn't have Givenchy. In fact, I don't know any store that has Givenchy in the UK. So do let me know. I mean, of course you can buy online, but do let me know in the comments, if you're based in London, do you know anywhere that sells Givenchy in the store? Because I would really like to know. But in Selfridges, they sell virtually everything you could think of, apart from Givenchy, so Prada and Gucci and their makeup brand. So it's pretty comprehensive, and that's where I discovered nude sticks, for example. So it is really lovely, and it's all laid out very nicely. And generally speaking, the staff are very friendly, and it's, yeah, a great place to visit. Now, one of the other things I've been doing, and spoiler alert, this Sunday my personal stylist video will be coming out. And by the way, I just wanted to mention, when I played it back, I looked at my hair and I just thought, oh, it just looks so awful. I look like the granddad in the Munsters, you know, the one that had the weird sort of wings at the side of his hair. I should have put it back. Anyway, I hope that doesn't put you off too much. Do watch it and let me know what you think. But anyway, because I had the personal stylist coming, I needed to sort out my clothes a little bit better so that she could see what I had. And that made me realise that I really need to give them a good old clean. And I bought a steamer recently, actually, which I'm going to be using again later today before I go away to Newcastle. And it's really great. My other steamer had given up the ghost. And I never use an iron. I just can't be faffed, honestly. Can you? I just hate ironing so much. Oh, those nights, those Sunday nights, it takes me back to when my son was at primary school, even secondary school, actually. And it was a private school and he had to wear a uniform, and I'd iron his shirts, and I'd also iron my husband's. Why did I do that? I should have let him do his own. Terrible, really. That was my second husband, by the way. So really bad. Anyway, so I don't do any ironing. I have a steamer, which I really like from the steamery. And again, no doubt that'll be my favourites. The only reason I'm mentioning this is because, I don't know about you, but I suffer from moths, or at least not me personally, but my wardrobe does and my house does actually. And so I really have to be careful that I don't have my lovely cashmeres and silks and what have you eaten by moths. But there is a really great company called Total Wardrobe Care, and actually that's right, I've mentioned it in my newsletter, which if you haven't signed up yet, by the time you see this, it's not too late because it's coming out on Friday. And I've referenced it in there, but they do really great anti-moth products, including a really lovely spray. Actually, the scent of the spray is fantastic, and you spray it on your clothes before you steam them. Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, so I think, touch wood, I've managed to ward off any moths because this is really the season. And actually, here's a useful tip. If you find that you've got a moth-ridden item of clothing, put it in a plastic bag and leave it in the freezer for a couple of days. It kills everything. Anyway, moving on from moths, another thing I've been doing at home is picking flowers for my garden. Now you might think, well, you've got a garden. What's so interesting about that? But honestly, our garden has been so abundant this year. Neither of us are, well, my husband is actually quite a good gardener. He is a good gardener. Although maybe aesthetically he's not quite as thoughtful as I'd like him to be. Anyway, let's put it that way, because he tends to put tall flowers at the edge of the flower bed instead of further back. That's a detail. He's really good in the garden and he knows a lot about it, whereas I don't. And because we got together kind of later in life, I was in my late 40s, I had lived on my own for a little while, about a couple of years, and I'd been used to doing my own thing in the garden. And actually my second husband wasn't interested in gardening at all, really. So I had to sort of let go. You know what it's like when you get together with someone, you have to compromise, right? So I've kind of left my husband to do a lot of the gardening, and I've tended just to do the pots. But recently I've taken an interest again, and actually was watching Gardener's World the other day, realising that there's so many lovely flowers on shrubs, for example, that you can pick and put in a vase. I don't know why I never thought of this before. Coupled with, though, this is definitely the best year our garden's had. And I think because I've got some fantastic bulbs, got the most amazing tulips that just about have gone now, but amazing tulips and other lovely things, alliums and all sorts, that it's just been really abundant. And I've been able to pick gorgeous flowers and some roses as well, which I absolutely adore, for vases in the house, which has been absolutely delightful. So that's another kind of homemaking thing apart from killing moths that's been occupying me over the last few days. Now, I wanted to talk about music because I don't know about you, but I'm terrible for listening to new music. I mean, probably the newest artist I discovered was a few years ago, and that was Lizzo, and maybe one or two others. But the great thing about platforms like Spotify is you can revisit your old music, which is what I do all the time. Now, I also use that AI DJ on Spotify who will create playlists for you, although I have to say some of them are a bit repetitive. But one of the things that popped up in my feed recently on Spotify was Carry On by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. It made me think about music that I love, and I don't know about you, but when I hear an old song that I haven't heard for a long time, it can immediately take me back to where I was when I used to listen to it. And listening to that takes me back to a flat in Ealing. I was 16 and very shy and not the happiest, but I did make some really good friends, some of whom are still my friends today, even though they don't even live in this country. And coincidentally, one of those friends came from a place called Oakville in Canada. Now, I can't remember why or who I was discussing Oakville with recently. I think it was in the comments in one of my videos. And I've never been to Oakville, but my granny lived in Oakville for a long time. Well, probably about 10 years, I think, when she married a Canadian. So her second husband was Canadian, or at least a Canadian citizen, and he had a property in Oakville. Now, as I say, I've never been there, but I've always fancied going. I gather that the property is now a golf club, or at least it was when I met this friend in Ealing. Gosh, I'm really rambling now, aren't I? Anyway, going back to music. Let me know in the comments, are there songs that take you back to a moment in time? It can just take you off into a reverie, can't it, of thinking about what you were doing and things that you loved and all of that. And it can make you very happy. Of course, it can make you sad as well, because if you hear a song that brings back a moment in time that was very sad for you, then it can be quite emotional and quite triggering, actually. Anyway, I don't want to be triggering. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about happy things. However, I'm just going to touch on friendship again, because it was interesting. Last week's discussion about friendship really seemed to strike a chord with you. And I've been thinking a bit about friendships and dropping friends. And I'll tell you why. Because I did that video where I mentioned an ex-friend who suggested I ought to have an eye bag lift. But I just wanted to touch on that a little bit more, because the woman who said to me I ought to have an eye lift was actually an old school friend, although I didn't know her all that well because she was a couple of years ahead of me. But I really was quite, not hurt exactly, because we weren't super close, but I was really quite annoyed about it, and I've unfriended her. And I've done that by unfriending her on Facebook, actually. But I've also done a similar thing with another so-called friend. Now, this other so-called friend, and this is a difficult one, I appreciate that, but when I split up with my second husband, my friends, I like to call them, the ones that I'd made myself, they were the loyal friends who stuck with me, even though the breakup was difficult, but it wasn't terrible in that my second husband wasn't horrible or anything like that. It was not that kind of a breakup. It was a kind of a mutual thing, really. But I expected my friends to be loyal to me, and they were. However, there was one friend who wasn't that loyal, and this is the other one that I've unfriended on Facebook and unfriended kind of almost in person, although maybe not quite as in person as I should have done, because it's difficult, isn't it? You don't want confrontation. This friend was equivocal about my breakup, and I found that difficult, but I put up with it because I'd known her all those years. But then when I got together with my current husband, my third husband, my final husband, our relationship didn't flourish at all and didn't really continue in the same way. And although I've stayed friends with her up until recently, it wasn't the same. And then the reason that precipitated my ending my friendship with her, and actually I wasn't the only one, another girlfriend did it too, was because she'd moved out of the country, quite far away actually, and I didn't hear anything from her for ages. And then I saw her in the street as I was driving by, and I thought, oh, she's back, that's good, and, we'll get together. So I messaged her, and we had dinner with this other friend as well. And it turned out she'd been in the country for ages, and she never bothered to get in touch. And I just thought, well, that's really not on, is it? I mean, if you're friends with someone, surely you would want to see them. So I kind of got the impression that actually she wasn't that interested in seeing me. So there was that. And then on top of that, when I did see her a couple of times, she's so intrusive. I had realised it actually, but I'd sort of brushed it aside. But she asks such personal questions, and she interrupts you all the time. I know I have a tendency to interrupt people, and I do try to curb that. But oh my gosh, it just drove me round the bend. I found it so irritating. So in the end, I just thought, actually, do you know what? I've had enough, really. I'm not interested in seeing her. I'm not getting anything from her. It's a shame because she does have some good qualities. She's not all bad. She's actually very positive, and I hear she's remarrying. She had a terrible breakup, much worse than mine. And I hear that she's remarrying, and that's fantastic for her, and I'm delighted. And she's a great volunteer. She's very intrepid. She's travelled bravely on her own, actually, in her 60s and all of that. And she has lots of admirable qualities, but I just don't want to be friends with her anymore. And that's the bottom line, really. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this rather rambly conversation today. I absolutely love checking in with you and having a chat. I can't tell you, these are some of my favourite videos to make now, even though I know not a lot of people are that interested in them. But my loyal subscribers, I love you for watching this. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your comments so much. I cannot tell you. I've absolutely found my tribe here on YouTube, and I'm so grateful. So if you are new to my channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. As I say, you can also sign up for my newsletter. It's not too late. This will come out on Wednesday, and the newsletter comes out on the first Friday of every month. So it'll be coming out on Friday. And I look forward very much to seeing you on my next video. Bye.